On the second night of a back-to-back in Indiana, the Toronto Raptors run out of gas against the Pacers. Just 17 fourth-quarter points for the Raps. Malcolm Brogdon with a huge bounce-back game for the Pacers. 129-114. Pacers is your final. Raptors record drops to 7-10 on the season. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Raptors Night Cap. Randy Urban alongside Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones, and Jack Armstrong. Jack, you were calling this one on television. Raps just didn't have it in the fourth.
Yeah, and they didn't have it in other phases tonight as well. I thought their defense was really problematic. They had three quarters where they gave up over 30 points. And this team just doesn't have the offensive firepower to withstand giving up 129 points. So clearly, both teams were tired. And obviously the Raptors without Siakam, but you look at Sabonis leaving early, as well as, guys like, Levert and Warren out for Indiana. They're down in numbers as well. It just came down to the fact that Indiana's bench was much better. Lamb and McConnell were terrific. And to me, I just think that this group, I think, is figuring out what the formula is, but whether they can execute it every night is a different story. But they need to be elite defensively. And when they're not, they have a hard time generating enough offense.
Well, Jonesy, why is that? You know that Indy's going to come out firing. You know they're going to pick up the pace energetically. Why is basketball like that? Why do you know what the other team's going to do and you still can't deliver on the defensive end?
Well, part of that is human nature, and it's like playing with a big lead. The other guy gets paid too. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon, you don't have to tell him he was 5 for 22 yesterday. And it was all over the highlights that Fred stripped him at the end of the game. He's a good player. He's a proud player. And the thing about these games where they're back-to-back sets, it's got that playoff feel. Whoever the Pacers played in the next game was going to feel the rebound from what happened against the Raptors. It happened to be the Raptors again. And as Jack said, Toronto's defense was suspect early, and Indiana got off the mat and became confident. Now you're trying to bottle up a guy who's got his confidence back. They're like, okay, we've got this thing back. Yesterday was an aberration, and you're chasing them for the entire game. So it's part human nature. You feel good. You kind of know what's coming, and it's like knowing a guy's going to hit you really hard in a boxing match. But all of a sudden you feel how hard it really is, and it's a different story. And I think that was part of it tonight. Look, Raptors did a great job to chase them down and get back in the game. But as Jack talked about, the firepower, the consistency on offense wasn't there. They had a few chances to take the lead. They couldn't do it. And then their defense got broken down. They didn't get the whistle didn't go their way. 17 free throws to 4 in the fourth quarter. And all of those things snowball, and you get beat by 15 points.
Speaking of getting paid too, Sherman Hamilton, everybody. Sure. Why are they not able to stop Brogdon?
Well, a couple of things. To Jonesy's point, this guy's good. I mean, you hold the guy down one time, and you better believe that he's bringing his best stuff the next time to try and erase what happened. So that factors in. Also, I thought Nick Bjorkgren did a better job of putting him in more movement plays where he wasn't just coming straight down the middle, attacking and trying to break people down. He was operating on coming off of pin downs, getting the ball in action off the side, coming off of a screen and roll, able to attack bigger bodies. And that kind of movement created more fluidity in his game. I tell you what, when you cough the ball up, those live ball turnovers that gave Indiana open court opportunities, and Malcolm Brogdon scored a few in transition, that kind of takes the lid off of it, gives him a bit more freedom. And it's just difficult. And then before you know it, he's making his threes. And this isn't a guy that you're going to hold down the same way twice. And that's what makes a good player. But I thought that he had too much freedom of movement. If you look at the game yesterday afternoon, they did a really good job of really impeding all of his movement, making him feel something every time he had the ball in his hands. Even to get to the ball, they made it difficult for him. Tonight, I just thought he was too free-wielding. His movement wasn't restricted at all. And that goes for TJ McConnell as well. And Jeremy Lamb. These guys just had too much freedom of movement, and the Raptors defensively just didn't answer the call like they did yesterday.
Speaking of McConnell, Jack, he really gave him a spark off the bench. He did last night, but tonight even more so in the win.
Well, Lamb was outstanding, and then
Mhm.
I would say McConnell. He and Brogdon combined for 18 assists, so their playmaking was just off the charts. And McConnell gives you kind of like a Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry guy. He's just in the middle of everything. I mean, deflections, steals, taking charges, just flying around the building, doing whatever it takes to win. And I thought he really energized their second unit. And you get what you deserve, and the Pacers deserve to win this game. And Sherman mentioned the turnovers. Indiana scored 27 points over 12 Toronto turnovers, so that was just so opportunistic. And to me, again, I just think that I said this on the air tonight, and I know Jonesy and Sherman and Randy guys will agree with me. Kyle Lowry, after 2 games where he doesn't play, in my experience with Kyle now over the years, he's a guy that thrives on work. He's like an old-fashioned pitcher. You give him the ball every four days, and you just put him out on the mound. You don't worry about pitch count, and you just go. And when he has a few days off because of injury or as we've seen getting ready for playoffs sometimes, when you rest him, he kind of loses a little of that. And he struggled tonight, and he struggled the last 2 games. But I fully expect to be ready to roll Wednesday night against Milwaukee.
Randy, quickly, just on the TJ McConnell, I thought he played a great game, but I thought the Raptors helped him out way too much. And Jack, you mentioned this in the broadcast, and I was saying this yesterday in the game. This is a guy whose instinct is to pass the basketball. He's going to draw 2 so he can find a teammate. They should have made TJ McConnell go for 35 tonight. They should have made him score every time he got a look at the basket. Don't give him the option to find teammates. I thought the Raptors overreacted, overhelped on him, and left key players open. And that's something I thought they would have adjusted to throughout the game, but they didn't seem to change that approach. And he just constantly hurt them by attracting multiple players defensively and making plays for teammates, which is ultimately what he wants to do.
And I'll just kind of punctuate that. All you have to do is go back and watch the game and how many times Indiana swings the ball and it ends up with TJ McConnell in the corner. Mm-hmm. I can count at least 5 poor closeouts where they run at him and he goes by them. And as Sherm said, his instinct to pass now kicks in. You're rotating. You can't catch up to the ball. Your rebounding is wounded. Make him a shooter. He took 1 3-point shot tonight and made it. When he's got the ball out there, proper closeout, chop your steps, contest, contain, don't let him into the lane. And then to your point about turnovers, guys, coaches can handle 1 point per turnover. But when you give the ball up and it's a 3-on-1, a 4-on-2, and they're getting layups and dunks, there's no defense for that. I just thought the Raptors, they came out sluggish. It set a tone. And that tone was never reversed all night.
Jack, just going back to what you said about Kyle Lowry, isn't that interesting? Because I think we kind of forget how high of a level these guys play at, that, this is his job. He's playing every day, but even just missing 2 games, a small fraction of games can throw off your rhythm. That's how hard the other team is playing.
Well, you're right. And, you're coming into a game where you got Brogdon, who's breathing fire because he got embarrassed yesterday. And McConnell is kind of a mirror image of Kyle and Fred and Brogdon. They're all feisty guys, and you're going to get their best punch. And so it's a tough game to come into because it's not finesse, and people are into you. But again, we've just seen this so many times during Kyle's career, and the guy's played a ton of games, and he's been a great, great player. When people start writing and talking about, oh, you're playing him too many minutes. No, I think he's at his best. He's a workhorse. He's a bowler. He's a hooper. And the more he plays, the more in rhythm he gets and the more his timing's good. And I think when he rests or he's hurt, it takes a little time to get him going again. But I'm comfortable that he'll be fine.
Sure. Did OG leave in the game in that fourth, factor in, do you think? The Raptors, despite all these things we've saying, were right there, and then OG goes out and they kind of lost their luster.
Yeah, and I won't even say as much offensively as they did defensively. I thought OG not being there defensively had impact for the Raptors. I mean, he does so many things that you don't really see, just his physicality, his presence, and his ability to keep the ball in front of him and things of that nature. You know, when you're missing that for a crucial part of the game, which is when OG had to go back and get stitched up, it's difficult to hold the fort, especially when your offense isn't clicking the way you'd like it to. And I just think that we're getting a small sample size of how OG can play a significant role for this team on both sides of the basketball. And that to me is a sign of progression for him and growth. But there's no question about it. Without OG on the floor, they're a different defensive team. You know, Bembry comes into the game, he does a little something, but it's just not quite the same. And I think OG being a stable force on the defensive end is something that they've become accustomed to. And when he's not there, they feel the difference.
Jonesy, what do you got to do to bounce back from something like this? Just a little bit of rest?
Yeah, you know, look at the video. Better execution. You know, better defense. I thought Miles Turner was the biggest guy on the floor in the fourth quarter, and he showed it. I mean, he had 11 points and 6 rebounds in that quarter, and he seemed to be around the ball. He seemed to be protecting the rim. You know, that's it just a size thing, and the Raptors, you know, didn't outwork that, didn't combat that in the same way. But to your point, Randy, you know, you watch the video, you review, you make your adjustments, you get guys back healthy, Pascal Siakam, and look, you're capable. You've been on a streak now where you've won. This is, you know, 5 of 7. So as bad as the 1-6 start was, you've turned it around since then. But you need to keep going. You've narrowed your margin for error, so you need to keep going right now and get back in the gym. Look at the video, work things out.
5 seconds, Jonesy.
Keep working. Keep working.
All right, guys, we got to go. Sorry, Jack. Go.
Last thing, we've been spoiled by Chris Boucher. He had a tough night, but he's not going to have a lot of them.
Yeah. All right, guys, appreciate you doing this. Next game for the Raptors, Wednesday night against the Bucks, 7:30 tip.
Thanks for watching. You can click to watch our last episode or to subscribe to the Toronto Raptors YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode.